What are your talents, passions, and what is your purpose on this earth? My name is Lydia Ingabire, and I am very excited to take you throughout this journey. Career Kanva. Great. We are back. And in today's session, I feel like we need to discuss, career guidance or making a career choice starts with you. Who are you? Do you know yourself? What are your talents, passions, and what is your purpose on this earth? I remember when I've been on different career journeys, and sometimes my friends make fun of me and they're like, Lydia, for all the degree, for example, your bachelor's degree, where do you use it? Because it's a biology degree. And I'm always like, well, at least I'm alive. So it helps me to keep myself alive, even though I may not have used it yet in my, professional life. But in my personal life, I use it. So that's also the importance of education. Now, knowing yourself and understanding yourself is very key and critical when you're choosing a career path. But so many times, let's say in Rwanda or even in Africa in general, sometimes you do not have the option of choosing where you end up. Because you wake up one day, you're 3 years old and you're going to school. You never know what you're going to learn. And then when you're done with primary, obviously you continue with O-level, and then you do what either your friends say is trendy or your parents help you choose, but then you don't know yourself as you. What am I capable of doing, or what am I passionate about? So a little bit about talent. Talent is something you do effortlessly. Talent is something that you're naturally good at. Let's say you're naturally good at speaking, talking to people, or playing soccer. Now, passion is something that you love, something you can do overnight, something you can do even while asleep. You may like taking pictures, and you can do that even if someone woke you up early in the morning. That's fine. Now, purpose is when the two meet. Is when you meet your talent and your passion as well. So it's blended in one. But I want to go back to how we progress through our life and career and how we get to choose. Let's say you're in O-level. O-level, usually you take all subjects. Math, history, physics, biology. And that is all important. And that's all good. And then come to A-level, that's where you choose. Now, you either do, let's say, sciences, or arts, or literature, or something. You choose. Now, the choice that you make from then on then goes on to determine where you end up. And I want to just talk to you about how do you then make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to do math, physics, computer science, and where is that leading you to? We'll discuss more about that in our next session on career pathways and education, how they lead to different sections. But as a person, either you have your parent who says, okay, you should take MPC, or you should take, biology, math, and geography. But where does that lead to, and why are you choosing that? That is very important to ask yourself, is it something that I can do effortlessly? Or even if it requires effort, let's say, for example, mathematics, it may require you a lot of effort to get to win the subject. But then is it lined with what do you love the subject to begin with? So in that case, you find that you're either making a decision because you, as a student, you're like, okay, yeah, my friends are saying MPC just go home, so I'm going to do that. Or your parent says, oh, MPC is what you get. So in so choosing, then you start directing your life. You do MPC, and then you end up, doing computer science, and then you end up being a software engineer, let's say, for example. But is that something you love, or is that something you found yourself into? Now, we're going to unpack, there are some self-assessment tools that can help you. For example, the Gallup We will put some of those links in our description so you can check them out. We have the Myers-Briggs that also helps you to self-assess yourself and say, okay, I'm based on a series of questions. I am this kind of person. I enjoy doing this, and I can choose from that and make a career out of it and make a passion out of it and make money out of it. Because at the end of the day, you go to school to make money. You pursue a certain career to make money, also to have fun. Some things you do for fun, but mostly career is for you to make money, make an impact, and have fun in this life. So connecting then, the other thing you have to look at is personal values. I remember when I was at university, personally, I like learning, and I took it very serious. So when I was at university, of course, because I had won a scholarship to go study the sciences, because back then the government was encouraging sciences a lot, and I did excel in the sciences. But then somewhere half the way, I realized maybe I don't enjoy science as I thought. I'm curious. I like to learn, new things, and the scientific discoveries were amazing. But there's some aspects of the subjects that I didn't like. For example, spending so much time in the lab, that wasn't my cue. So when I was in my third year at university, I was like, actually, even before I got to the third year, when I was in my second year, I was like, I need to learn different subjects. I need to discover. Now, lucky for me, at the university I was studying at, you had that flexibility where you can choose to say, okay, I'm going to add political science as an elective, or they call them electives, like subjects that are not mandatory. As an elective, I'm going to add political science. I took some psychology class. I did take Python. And I quickly learned that wasn't my area of expertise. So I successfully passed it, but through so much hard work, which is what, again, we were talking about. You may like something and it may not like you back because of either your personality or who you are, or even the brain is not as up to speed as you may like. So Python was one of those subjects that, for me, it required me extra effort to excel at the subject. So I was glad I had that experience, but then I was like, no, I don't think that's for me. I did take some business courses, some accounting classes, and that was interesting and eye-opening. But the most, where I found myself most was the global studies, the development studies, where we looked at different cases and scenarios. Okay, if a country is to develop, what factors does it factor in? Let's say, for example, you look at the economics of the country, the politics, because those two influence each other, the politics and the economics. And then the geographical location of the country, does it favor it? And then most importantly, the culture of the people. That also has an influence on how far as a country you will develop. So I found those to be very fascinating, and then I ended up taking a minor in global studies. Now, had I not taken the effort to explore and know what I like and what I do not like, I would have been self-directed into only sticking to, let's say, biology, which in the end, and I was really glad, like in my third year, I got an opportunity to do an internship. That is why I also encourage that internships are very, very important, because they are also part of the self-discovery journey. You get to experience, okay, if I'm going to be a doctor, do I like the environment? Do I like seeing the sight of blood? So doing those internships also help in shaping or they help you in making the choice. So I did an internship where we were doing research. We were spending so many hours in the lab. We would go out on the field, collect samples, bring them in the lab, and you sit for hours and hours and waiting for the results. And if they don't turn out as your theory predicted, and then you have to redo the experiment. I was like, this is not me. So there I realized that that's not where I want to end up. So fast forward, what I did then, I was like, okay, I'm also glad I had this experience, but that is not where I'm going. So I then decided to focus on the global studies part, because I realized I would rather spend more time talking to people than working with the machines. Now, it's different for some people. Some people, they would rather be, in the lab, running those experiments, bringing out the data, and then they would rather not be in front of people and talking about whatever they found in the lab. And that is totally okay. And we need all those people. But you as a person, it takes that self-discovery to know where you fit the most, so you can lead a life that is authentic, that is fulfilling. Sometimes you find yourself in situations where you're really not happy about your job. You're just waking up and going through life as it is because you've been dumped into that situation. But there is an opportunity for you to pivot, I can say. Now, when we talk about pivoting, especially when it comes to career, how do you pivot? You explore and you make time. So there is a time between, let's say, you're doing your 9 to 5. So this is a message for those people who you've already found yourself in a career maybe you're not very happy about. So yes, you do have your 9 to 5, but then after 5, what do you do? Or before 9, what do you do? If it's music, you can try, playing an instrument. If it is accounting, you say, okay, I'm here, but I would like to pivot here. So after work, are you doing accounting courses? Are you taking some courses online? That can help you in pivoting, because at the end of the day, you find that you may not have the degree in the particular field that you're looking to enter into, to pivot into, but you have extra certificates and courses. Now, back to myself. When I did my biology degree and I was done with it, and then I realized I didn't like biology very much, but I did global studies. I'm like, okay, I'm going to build on this global studies and then continue further. And then I entered the workforce. Luckily, I found a job that I really liked doing, supporting youth employment, helping people acquire, get connected with opportunities. But as I was there, I was like, you know what? I need to upgrade my education. That is when now I looked at doing a master's degree. But after experiencing what the workforce does, for me especially, I don't recommend someone getting out of bachelor's and then straight up to master's. Though if you already know that you've chosen that path, if let's say you say, oh, for me, I'm an engineer and that's what I want to be in this life, well enough, and you've chosen it, that is perfect. I recommend first explore the labor market. See, it can be volunteering, it can be through an internship. You work and see where your passion lies, where you have the talent, and where you find the most fulfilling purpose. Because then that helps you in living that fulfilling life, living within your purpose, and understanding that it is definitely important to move, to wake up. It feels great to wake up and say, oh, let me see what I can do today. Let me see what impact I can cause in this day. But it is painful to wake up every day dreading the work you do. And yet you spent so much money, you spent so much time to acquire the degree you've acquired, to gain the experience you've gained, and yet you do not like what you're doing. That also brings me to my other point, cultural background. Cultural background shapes us in so many ways. The way you're raised, the environment that you come through, definitely leads to what you're capable of doing or what you dream of becoming. So being aware of, okay, my parents maybe have always been teachers. You can say that. And say, okay, they've always been teachers, so I'm going to follow in their footsteps. Or you can choose to be the black sheep and say, because all my family members have always been teachers, I choose to do the opposite, which I have done before in my past. I remember when I joined high school, when I joined Cornerstone, I know that some in my family may castrate me for this, but I know most of them had done the arts. And I was like, since almost everyone has done the arts, I'm going to do something they've never done before. So I am going to then do sciences. And that's how I ended up doing sciences. And it was a fun and interesting journey, and which most certainly led me to, also getting a good scholarship and continuing my studies. But I want to also bring it to one of the experiences I had while doing school, which initially I started out doing mathematics, chemistry, and biology. And it was fun. It was interesting until halfway through like senior 5, and math was a problem. I wasn't exactly failing it, but I wasn't exactly excelling in the subject. So, and I remember our head teacher by then held me in his office and was like, Lydia, I can see you're trying, but things are not going well. And if you're going to succeed, here's a piece of advice. Once the national exams are out, the first question people will ask is, did she win? Now, then you ask and then you're like, yes, she won, or no, she did not win. Now, the answer that comes after is, doesn't matter a lot. So if you won, if you got a perfect grade, then they will ask, what combination was she doing? And then you say, oh, she was doing math, and all that. But if they ask you the questions like, did she win? And you say, no, you see, she tried, but she failed. No one is going to want to know what your combination was or what you're doing. Which brings me to the point. I know sometimes as parents or even as students, you have the pressure to do what everyone else is doing, but excel at something that you can afford to excel at. It is important, because taking a subject because it is hard and you think people are going to respect you because you did that subject because it's hard, and then you end up failing at the subject, it is an absolute waste of time for everybody. So, find something you excel at. And I know sometimes our education system can be tough in a sense that a teacher won't let you get 100% in some schools. But I know some schools where they'll give you 100% and the student, you'll feel good about yourself. That is perfect. But do not take a combination or do not take a course at university just because it's hard. So you want to prove a point. If you do take it because it's hard, make sure you're excelling at it, because once you fail, it will be an indicator that, you don't know what you're doing. And this as well translates even in the workforce. And this is how it has a ripple effect. If you decided to take medicine today because they say medicine is hard, and then tomorrow you don't excel, or luckily you excel at some point, but it's not really something that you like, that you enjoy. This is where you find that even in the workplace, you are this doctor who doesn't really care about their patients. They are there to collect their paycheck and move. These are the doctors you go to and they'll say, we can't find any disease. And they will not even bother to give you a recommendation to go check with a specialist. You end up having a job that you don't like, and you're there just maybe for the paycheck, and you're also not offering a good service. So it is very empirical to know yourself, assess what you really like, pivot into it, excel at it, and work every day is like a learning process to discover yourself. I've shared, some of my personal experiences that have led me to discover myself. Some like the most important thing is to also be open. Be open to learning and open yourself to learn as many things as there are, because you never know where you're going to use those experiences. And the other thing is also, as you learn how to practice what you've learned, put it in practice. And if you're going to do a job, make sure you excel at that job. If you're taking a subject, make sure you are excelling at that subject. Look through ask yourself, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Why am I pursuing this medical degree? Why? Like, it has to come from the core of your heart. I know sometimes the circumstances may not be favorable, but once you can also work with it, it's the same thing that we say, do any job, because it will help you to land a better job. But in the process, as you're doing any job, are you learning something that will lead you to the job that you want to do? With that, we have really explored, this session. I feel like we're going to, what you can do, check out some of those resources that I've shared, so that you can really take time to reflect on your life. Or even if you're guiding your child, ask them really important questions. Why do they like the things they like? And how can they monetize then the things that they like? Don't try to push someone because that is what is trendy. It is good to go with what is trendy, but at the end of the day, remember the ripple effect that I talked about. We may end up with people who are in places that they should not be, and that can be costly. Same as a person, you may end up in places that you didn't want to be just because you followed what everyone was following, just because you followed what was trendy. But assess yourself and make sure you're doing what you're doing for the right reasons and the right cause, and you are excelling at what you're doing. With that, let's close up this session. Thank you very much. See you next time.